Alright guys, welcome back to Tim's Do-It-Yourself Club, and today we're going to be changing the oil on a 98 Chevrolet Z71 four-wheel drive pickup truck with a 5.7 liter Vortec engine. So as the truck's cooling off, I recently drove it, so the oil is warm. It's always best to change your oil when the oil is warm but not hot. If you've recently driven your vehicle, you need to let it cool down just a little bit so it won't burn you when you go to let the oil out, or if you spill oil on yourself, you don't want to get burned. So you want your oil warm but not hot. So I'm going to gather up a few things I'm going to need to do the oil change, and I'll be right back. Okay guys, so I've gathered up a few old rags that I'm going to use on the oil change. I'm going to grab a 5-gallon bucket over here just to carry everything out to the front. Since I have my 81 Toyota sitting here in front of my shop, I'm not able to pull the truck around to the shop to change the oil, but I'll just do it in the driveway. So first thing I'm going to need is 5 quarts of motor oil, and I had already went and bought some motor oil. The truck's got 272,000 miles on it, so I recently switched to SuperTech brand. It's SAE 5W30, which is what the manufacturer calls for, and I need 5 quarts of that, so I'll go ahead and put that in my bucket. And I've got my AC Delco oil filter, which is what factory approved, so I'll go ahead and drop that in my bucket. I'm going to need a socket wrench and a deep well socket. Well, I could get by with a shallow socket. This is standard size, so I'll just take the whole rack because I'm not sure what size I need. Actually, I need metric size in 3/8. There's metric size, so I'll just go ahead and drop those in my bucket. I think it's a 14 millimeter or 15 that takes off the oil plug, but I'm not really sure. I'll just take them all out there since I'm not sure. And now I need an oil filter wrench. I'll need a oil drain pan, and my rags. I'll go ahead and carry that out front, and I'll be right back. And I need a creeper, which in my do-it-yourself garage, oftentimes a creeper is a piece of cardboard. I always keep some cardboard laying around for crawling under cars and things like that. I do have a concrete driveway down next to the house, but it's got dirt and acorns and sticks and things that'll dig into your back. So I'm going to lay a piece of cardboard down to roll around on. Since this is a four-wheel drive vehicle and it's up high enough off the ground, I'm not going to have to pull up on ramps. So I'll just slide the cardboard underneath the front of the truck. Okay folks, I got my cardboard slid under the truck and I'm ready to drain the oil. Okay folks, I got all my supplies nearby. I did decide to use these leather work gloves because the oil's probably going to be hot, but I want to drain it while it's warm, so I'll get a good flow and get as much of the old oil out as possible. Got my drain pan under the truck, and let me crawl under there and get to the oil drain plug. Okay folks, here's the drain plug for the oil crankcase right here, coming off the side of the oil pan. It does take a 15 millimeter socket. I've got my ratchet set on loosened, so I'm gonna go ahead and loosen the oil drain plug. I want to get my oil pan positioned over this way so the oil will drain into the pan. And I want to loosen this plug and drain the oil. Let's see. According to the temperature, it's not real hot. I may not need those gloves. It is a little hard to turn. It's a little slippery. I got it past a tight point. So what I'll do is loosen that drain plug up and drain the oil. And there she goes. On the end of the drain plug here, you can see there's a little magnet. And this magnet is there to catch metal particles that may be wearing off your crank or your camshaft or any metal wear inside the engine. That's what that magnet's for. So you always want to check that magnet if your car has one. If you see excessive metal fragments, then you may want to have a mechanic look at your engine. I'll just lay this drain plug to the side and I'll be right back. Okay guys, I'm back. Next I'll be taking off the oil filter, and I don't know if you can see it, but the oil filter's up in there. It's mounted on the side of the engine. There it is in relation to the drain plug. Again, this is on a 5.7 liter Vortec engine, 1998. So now I'm going to take my oil filter wrench and loosen that oil filter. I've repositioned my drain pan as far as I can get it over this way underneath the oil filter, because there is going to be some oil come out of that oil filter when I loosen it. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm going to get my oil filter wrench and put on the oil filter. You can put sandpaper inside this edge if it slips. I've seen people glue sandpaper inside this circular edge where it grips the oil filter. I've always had good luck with this filter wrench. I haven't done that, but I have done that in the past. So let's get this filter wrench on here and get this oil filter loosened up. Just slide it over the edge. According to which direction you have, you can, as you pull on it, it grips the filter, and here we're getting it loose. So now I could probably use my hand to loosen it, and you'll see oil when it runs out around my front drive shaft U-joint. I just always wipe it off. There it comes. It's a little windy out here today. I hope it doesn't blow oil where it don't drain in the pan. But this is oil that's coming from my oil filter. Yep, a little bit run over there. Let me move my pan a little bit. Loosen the oil filter more. I'm hand loosening the oil filter. And here's where the deluge will come from. There it comes. Good thing we got cardboard now. Now I'm gonna dump the excess oil into my oil pan. And I'll give the oil pan time to drain more and let as much of that old oil run out as possible. I'll be right back. Okay folks, what I do is, and this is something I believe everybody needs to do, it's a good idea to make sure that your old gasket comes off with your old oil filter, and you want to get just a little bit of oil on your fingers and lube up this new gasket. I'm having to hold the camera with one hand, so I'm just going to put a drop or two of oil. There we go. Put a drop or two of oil. Having to do this one-handed because I'm holding the phone with the other hand to lubricate this new gasket when you screw the oil filter on. And while that oil is continuing to drain out of the engine, it's down to a drip now, I'll go ahead and install the new oil filter. What I like to do, guys, before I put my new oil filter on, if you can see up in there, it's a little hard to see, but where the oil filter screws on, right there, it's like an oil filter mounting bracket. I like to wipe that off with a rag. The gasket surface, I like to wipe that off and get any excess oil. I'm gonna wipe off my wipe the excess oil off of my drive shaft, just so it won't drip. It's not gonna hurt anything. Actually, it may help just lubricate that U-joint. It's certainly not gonna hurt anything. I just wipe it down to keep oil from dripping. I can get my finger all up in that, up around there as good as I can. I always do oil changes myself. It's probably just as cheap to go to Jiffy Lube or something like that, but I've heard stories where people weren't always satisfied with those quick change oil places. Not necessarily saying that Jiffy Lube isn't good, but so anyway, then after I wipe that off and get most of that oil, I go up to where my oil filter mounts and just wipe around that gasket mating surface. And then I take my new oil filter. You want to make sure you don't cross thread it. Stick it up in there, line it up. If it spins on easy, it's probably not cross threaded, but if you feel any resistance, back it off before you cross thread it and try it again. Once you get the gasket touching the gasket surface, then you just want to hand tighten. Don't use an oil wrench to tighten these up. It's not necessarily. So I'm gonna wipe a little more oil. I've got it now where it's up against the gasket surface. So this oil should stop dripping. It's not running out of the engine anymore. You can see I still got a drip over here. I'm gonna let that drip just a few more minutes to get as much oil out as possible. And I'm just gonna wipe a little bit more of this off of my drive shaft. There you can see on the top where it was sitting. Some more just come off. Get that wiped up as good as I can. Wipe my new filter off a little bit and hand tighten it. Now, usually it'll be a little slippery. You can have oil on your hands, so you might have to clean your hands. But just hand tighten that thing. I'm having to do it left-handed, but I believe that's good. Get it tight. I'm gonna go ahead and replace my oil plug. I always wipe off my oil plug, clean it up a little bit, but I'm gonna go ahead and reinstall the oil plug and go ahead and start filling it up with oil, refilling the crankcase with oil. 272,000 miles on this 1998 5.7 liter Vortec engine, and I can't help but believe that's because I've done regular oil changes every 3,000 miles. I just recently started using full synthetic. I was using conventional premium motor oil. Okay, I got my oil plug tight. Don't over tighten it because you will strip the threads. Oil plug's tight. Wipe off the excess oil. Give this drive shaft U-joint coming out of my transfer case. One more wipe, slide my oil pan out the front. I did crawl in through the driver's side behind the front tire, because it's just easier to access it than crawling all the way under the front. Getting a little more of this oil off of here. Wipe the oil off the oil pan, and we're going to fill her back up with 5 quarts of oil. Also, folks, what I do is I recycle my oil. I pour it out of my oil drain pan into a 5-gallon bucket, and when I get the 5-gallon bucket full, I'll take it to a recycling place, or usually these car parts, AutoZone, Advanced Auto, different places like that. Napa, they may accept recycled oil, but I take my oil filter, my old oil filter, stand it up in the box, and I recycle those also. So let's put some oil in it. Okay guys, right here is your oil filler cap. Just loosen that up. Buy this oil at Walmart. I was using a worldwide name brand before that, but I talked to a mechanic friend of mine, and he said that this is just as well and it's a little bit cheaper. So now I use SuperTech from Walmart, high mileage, full synthetic. And you probably heard people say once you go to synthetic you can't go back. Well, I've heard different. All you do is drain all the oil, and you can go back to conventional oil if you want to. In this vehicle, I'm not saying all vehicles, but in this vehicle, my mechanic friend said you can go back to conventional oil. So I'm gonna have to use 2 hands to get this seal off. Nope, it come off with 1 hand. It maybe should have come off with the lid. Okay guys, I'm back. Got the oil changed in the 98 Chevrolet Silverado Z71. And what I do is I keep a log. I keep a logbook of everything I've done. Anything I've ever done to this vehicle, I have it in this logbook. And at the very back of the book, I have maintenance items, oil filter, oil changes, things like that, chassis lube, things like that. Every 3 or 4 pages, I made a page for A in alphabet, B in alphabet, C in alphabet, and so on and so on. But as you get toward the back, you'll see oil changes. And I've written down every oil change that I've ever done in the vehicle with the mileage and the date. So the last time I changed this vehicle, the oil in this vehicle, because I don't drive it very often, was actually December 8th of 2019 with 269,000 miles, 927. So I'm going to update that now to today's date. Okay, today's date is February 28, 2001. We have 272,941. As you can see, I went over about 20 miles or so. It's not going to hurt nothing. I write down what oil I use. So I use SuperTech. From Walmart. High mileage. Full synthetic. And then out here in parentheses, I put down the filter. I use AC Delco. PF52E. And I also make a note of 5W30 motor oil. Guys, I had a little mishap on the video. That's why it got cut. I spilled some oil. I downloaded a video editor, so I'm going to try to edit this video and combine them all into one. But anyway, that's the oil change on a 1998 Chevrolet Z71 Silverado. Also, what I'm going to do is I got these little adhesion stickers. They stick to your windshield, and I always keep one up there to remind me, and so I'll know when my last oil change was. You can see this is about faded out where you can't even read it. It's been so long since I changed the oil, it kind of faded. So the next oil, I write the next mileage for the oil change. It'd be 275,941. So on the mileage here, I need to write 275,941. As you can see here, next service mileage is 275,941. Oil type SuperTech 5W30 synthetic. And then guys, what I do, I fix it to the windshield, and I use the paper so my hands won't smudge the Sharpie, and just stick it down. It works by adhesion. There's no glue on it. It just works by adhesion. So there we have it, folks. If you like the videos I do and you like learning things along with me, please hit the subscribe button, hit the thumbs up if you like the videos, and we'll see you guys on the next project.